All right, a quick video. Leak at the base of a toilet. Just pulled the toilet. Thankfully, my buddy Hector replaced all the other parts. Makes it a lot easier. This is a job that could be 15-minute job, or it could be 2-hour job if you have to replace the vacuum breaker assembly and clean out the tube, and then redo the spud. But love him for this. Hector put in a new spud. Love new stuff. Makes it really, really easy. Now you can see this wax ring. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of dipped down in the front. Haven't even pulled it. I'll show you why. This wax ring is designed for a 3-inch flange. And I'm prying this up. I'll show you. It's actually dropped down into the 5-inch flange, because this is actually 5 inches and not 3. It's always good when you do this. A place to put this right away. Beautiful. And see, this is actually not 3-inch. This is actually 5. And I'll show you this. Five, not 3. Now, you can either build up the inner ring right here and make it 4. You can do that with a couple of the little wax rings before you put your big wax ring on. You can put a PVC piece, cut some 4-inch PVC and slide it down to this. This is actually the top of this elbow, and the flange goes on top of that. It's a 5-inch flange. It goes with the old Weil McLean toilet very beautifully. The way they did it back in the day, that's the way we're going to do it, is with putty. So I'm going to clean all this off. I'm going to stick putty on it just like they did it back in the day, and this will be good 20, 30 years, maybe more. Otherwise, if you play this game, you might run into the same problem where the wax ring dips down one way or the other way. Too many units of freedom here. All right, so I'm going to clean this up, and I'll show you right before I do this what's going on. So I've cleaned it best I can, not perfect. You see where they put the bolts in. Now this is nice because I have new bolts. These could be rusted out as well. Whenever you touch this, any number of things could be a problem. Sometimes you can change these, and sometimes you actually need to have a flange repair kit. I'm not wearing the glove on this one because I'm trying to hold my phone. This is done during the pandemic, so if you're wondering, with the mask and the muzzle. So this could be a problem. The flange could be a problem. Luckily, very thankfully, most everything here is new. Now, I don't have to clean this as much as I would if I were replacing the toilet. I would have to clean this, make this perfect, because the toilet will go back in the same location. And actually, this helps me line up the toilet, because if I don't put this toilet in the exact same way, it won't line up with this pipe here. Whenever I do a job like this, I make sure I have my toilet bolt set, and I brought the Moen set. Look at that, instead of the Sloan. Bring the Sloan. Do yourself a favor. Bring the Sloan set. I must have been. Yeah. I'm not going to answer that. So that's video 2. I'm going to go ahead and make myself a gasket. I'll show you another short video before I put the toilet on. And with these bolts, I'll go ahead and put the putty all the way around. If you ever put bolts on like this, hopefully put some putty or wax under them as well to get the seal all the way around. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean that up a little bit more. I'm going to put putty all the way around. All right. So, putty is in. Just real quick, another nice thing about this job. One, all the hardware's new. This is new. Vacuum breaker's new. Spud on the toilet is new. Bolts are solid. Very solid. Love it. And the flange is at the same height as the floor. And sometimes this will be tile on tile, and this will be low. And you may have to build up with wax rings, or there's also rings, flange rings that you can raise this up on. The danger there is you want to keep these bolts, and you want to make sure you seal in between each ring if you go that route. But I've seen these where this will be down an inch to inch and a half below the floor, and then I end up using a number of rings or 2 very large wax rings to get it up to where the toilet is. But this plumber's putty is beautiful. You can build that up, and made it about that high, wrapped it around the bolts. This is beautiful. This is going to be 30-40 year job. I'm going to drop this toilet in place, hook everything up, and I'll show you how I test it. So I put the toilet on. See, it probably needs to rotate just a little bit, and with the putty, I can do that. Wax rings, not so sure about that. I'm going to do myself a favor, and if I put this in first, I'm going to disinfect everything. If I put this in first, then I can see if I'm in line before I tighten the toilet, because you can move this slightly to one side or the other. It looks like I've lined it up to where it was. So with everything new, that's a little askew, but it should take up that angle. And if everything's tight, this sometimes moves too. So we should be good to go. Sometimes you may need to play a little bit. And sometimes you may need to pull this off again and redo it. Again, this can be a 15-minute job, a 2-hour or 3-hour job if you have to repair the flange, and depending on how bad the flange is and what you need to do to repair it. All right, one more short video. All right, so I've hooked everything up. I've actually flushed it about 5, 6, 7 times. I've wiped around the edges, get it dry. You can see some of the putty leaking out. I may have used a little too much because it's flange is pretty close to the tile level. You can use less putty if that's the case. I'll go ahead and flush it 5 times. I know that's only 4, but I've already flushed it, 5 or 6 times before. Look all the way around. No leaks. Only thing left to do, just for the record, I got my booties on and I got my mask on. I'm gonna spray it, just for the record. Spray everything down. Let it sit for a few minutes, disinfect while I load up my cart with everything, and then I can clean my way out of this bathroom and keep everything safe for our tenant who's paying our bills. So, all right. So, thankfully everything, the spud, and again, the vacuum breaker was in good condition. Shutoff valve worked. All these little things made this job really quick. And main thing I want to point out in this video is at least at West Elm, this is a 5-inch flange. I really think we should be using putty. You can play around with the wax rings and make it work. Maybe slide a piece of PVC in or something to reduce the size. Otherwise, that 3-inch, the 3-inch wax ring will slide down. You can play the game, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And then you end up, like with me, I don't know how long this has been here, but probably not too long. This putty situation, I'll never have to touch this again. So I just think that's the way to go at 10 West Elm. It's old school. All right, that ends the video. Like I said, I'm gonna clean my way out of this bathroom and keep everything safe. Hope this was helpful. These are your options for repairing a broken flange, and sometimes they'll crack. There's always that sinking feeling you get when you're tightening the toilet bolt and you feel it give. That's a very sad feeling when that happens. And then you're in this territory. This is spanner flange. If only a piece of it snaps off, you might be able to drill through there. There's some tapping screws that you can drill into if it's only a piece, and see, you can put your closet bolt through here if that's possible. If half of it breaks off, you're in a different territory. Now forget that. You either have to go this option if you want to try and mount it. It's got 3 attachment points on it, or this guy. And I've had to do this in this bathroom when it really cracks off, and even use Tapcons, some 4-inch Tapcons, and find some concrete to screw this down on. And again, if you do this before you put this on top of the flange, put some putty or wax down and make sure to make a nice seal. And you can push wax or putty into the sides so the water won't leak through the floor down into the next apartment. You can keep everything up onto the floor you're working on. That's always a nice thing to do if you can. And again, I've had to put 4-inch Tapcons on one of these just to get this to sit on. And there's some really nice, what are those, tapping screws for I-beams that work really well. And you can drill down into the flange, and then, but under the flange might be concrete or something else. So you got to play games to get this to work right. So hopefully that doesn't happen. It's always a sinking feeling, and once it happens to you, you're always worried about it. And you may choose, if it's 3:30, 4 o'clock, to put a towel in the apartment and come back the next day. That's not a bad plan, because if that happens and the flange cracks, you're in a bad way, and you might be staying very late. All right. Oh, I actually have these here. I'm going to show these to you. This is a nice product. It's worked for me. You can find what works for you. These are for I-beams. Very nice. And sometimes you have to use one just for drilling, and then it goes dull. You might have to use a couple. Don't worry about it. Just goes dull. It's drilling in the cast iron. Take your time. And then it goes through and into the flange. If you can find a piece of the flange that's in good condition. And that would be, again, for the spanner flange. And maybe for this guy, if you want it. What you don't want to have happen, if you only have 1 or maybe 2, and this is your closet bolt, this can start lifting off. You can start flexing when you tighten down your closet bolt. You don't want that. So just make sure that that's not happening. Plastic rings, nothing but trouble. I think plastic rings go very nicely with a wood floor, where you can screw it right down into a wood floor. This is mortar or concrete or something else there. And again, you might have to go with this guy here, the quick ring. So always good to have these in stock. Always good to make sure these are in stock, because you might end up needing them. And again, seal between. And don't be afraid to use 4-inch Tapcons if you have to. you got to find something to screw this down on. And if you can, use one of these I-beam tapping screws and one or two of these, great. Do whatever you can. All right, and then be sure to line up your closet bolts. You don't want to line this section up. You want to line it up like here and then like here, because you want your toilet to point straight. Or actually, in 10 West Elm, that's a problem. You don't want it to point straight. You need it to point where it used to point, because then your plumbing won't line up and you may make yourself have more troubles than you wanted. So, all right, that was a really long explanation, but there you go. Anything could go wrong here. This is an old building. All right, good luck.